Young Adult Podcast.
Welcome to podcast 123. Let's give a round of applause, everybody. Come on.
3.
1, 2, 3. Oh, that's a good number. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. I know, it was really easy typing it in.
You're a numbers guy, I've noticed.
It's like 1, 2, 3.
You're a numbers guy.
Yeah, I'm a numbers guy. Yeah, I like numbers. I was really good at math in like first grade.
And I've noticed that you will talk about the number more. Like you said, podcast 80 was.
Yeah, I think it was 108.
108. That is what it was.
Yeah, it was 108.
You were so excited about 108 because the number 108.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either.
I just liked it.
Yeah.
What's your favorite number?
It's my favorite number.
That's a good question.
I really like the number 7.
Why?
Because it's the number of perfection. Also, when I was a kid,
Biblically, this is biblical reason.
Part of it's a biblical reason. Also, when I was a kid, I felt like nobody picked the number 7. So, like, if you were playing an odds game, it was a pretty good guess. So that's purely those two reasons. When I was a kid, it was like if you gave me 1 through 10, like I was going 7, and it's number of perfection. That's it.
What's your favorite number, Preston? By the way, Preston's on the podcast with us today, everybody. Welcome, Preston on the podcast.
Preston's on the podcast.
Preston on the podcast. Let's say
we should just call
108.
don't you troll us like that, Preston.
108.
108.
Good number.
Do you have a favorite number in all seriousness?
I don't.
Okay, I do. I got a favorite number.
What's your favorite number?
5.
5?
Yeah. That's because when I was a little kid, I would do I remember the teacher teaching us about syllables.
Yeah.
And like this, how many syllables does this word have? And then I became obsessed with counting the syllables in sentences after that moment.
Yeah.
And I would always do it in 5s.
Like multiples of 5?
Yeah, like I could go around this pattern really quickly with 5.
Yeah.
And so then like I could tell that sentence had 13 syllables.
Right.
And I could say it really quickly because I played this quick little game
Yeah.
with the number 5. And it became my obsession. The number 5 became my little like OCD.
Yeah, for sure.
And so 5 just became the number I just was constantly going over in my head. And then now it's become a curse now. At this point, like the number 5 is like my favorite number, but it can, if I'm not careful, it becomes a curse. Right?
I see.
Not a fan of David Montgomery then?
Why? Because he's number 5?
Maybe.
Well, it's my favorite number, but at the same time, it's something that became this weird obsession for me. But it's still my favorite number. So I like the number 5. Okay. I do.
All right.
I don't know how we got on that. I want to play a game with you guys.
Okay.
I didn't prep you for this game.
No, I have no idea.
Okay. It goes a little bit with our topic today.
Okay.
It's actually about your breath.
Okay.
So what I want us to do is, one at a time, we're going to see how this goes, is we are going to breathe out all of our air and then yell as loud as you can.
And then yell as loud as you can after you breathe out?
Yeah.
Possible.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's the game.
All right.
All right. So does anybody in particular want to go first? Because if you don't, I guess I will.
I can go first.
All right. So go first, and then we'll do Preston.
So is it like take a deep breath and then just breathe it all
You
out?
don't even need to take a deep breath. Just begin right now to breathe like you just, everything you got comes out, and then you yell.
Ah!
Very nice.
Did you really breathe out all your air?
I was blowing till I had like nothing left to give.
That's a pretty good yell from having
That
no
was
air.
a good yell for no air.
Yeah.
You know, as a kid, I had to take an asthma test where I'd blow out all my air, and I would try to like make there was a graphic on the TV that I was blowing into this thing I was connected to. It was a firefighter holding a hose, and the more you blew, the closer the water got to extinguishing the fire. I never extinguished the fire, so maybe this is my time.
This is your time.
This is it. This is your moment.
Right. All my air and then yell.
Yeah. You literally get out every bit of your air and then yell as loud as you can. That was like a no sound. I don't know what that was.
Well, my throat's kind of weird right now. I'm in a fight with my allergies and I'm losing.
You're in a death match with allergies.
I'm in a death match with allergies and I'm losing. But it's all good.
Now I'm going to say this. I've never done this before.
Okay.
Okay.
This will be my first time along with you. All right.
All right. I feel like it takes longer than you think to blow out all of your air.
I was starting to get insecure about how long it was taking me to blow out all my air.
Hey, strong lungs, man. Strong lungs.
So do you have asthma?
Oh, yeah.
Did I almost just kill you? Was that a...
No, I'm perfectly fine.
It's a great lead-in to our patches, which are conveniently displayed here.
Yeah.
We just got some brand
there.
new CY&YA patches.
Oh, yeah.
Be really
This is
cool
an
to be
interesting thing.
Part of the patch team.
I love patches,
Yeah.
but I don't have any.
Really?
Yeah. But I love it when somebody's backpack has
Yeah.
patches all over it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I wish I had a backpack with patches all over it.
Yeah.
And so we have actually, these are brand new, just arrived today.
Literally just arrived.
And this one's on display on the microphone, and it might just stay here.
Yeah. This one's on my shirt. It will not stay here.
But we're giving these away at our next young adult event, which
That's
is
right.
August 9th at 7 p.m. right here at the church. We are giving, everybody's going to get a patch. And we bought this big bag of really cool stickers.
Yeah. Like water bottle, laptop type stickers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they're fun Christian stickers.
Yep.
I put
Oh,
one
yeah.
on my laptop earlier.
Yeah, I got one on my water bottle already.
I got mine. It's a picture of Jesus, and he says Jesus is an all-star. It's great.
Is he dunking a basketball?
No, it's just his headshot. You know, like his
I got you.
pre-season. You know, before the season begins, get in there, take your headshot.
Yeah.
It's just one of those.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's
33-time All-Star.
What is he?
33-time All-Star.
Because he was alive for 33 years.
Sure.
Yeah. I was thinking like 2000 year in a row
That's kind of what
all-star.
I was thinking
We'll
too.
do that, then.
But
We'll do that.
2024 year all-star.
all right.
So,
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, the patches. So
Yeah, they're in. It's going to be cool.
We're talking about today. I don't know what we're calling the podcast yet, but you had read the scripture verse to us. Was it Psalms?
Yep.
Okay, Psalms
18.
Okay, did you read the whole psalm to us?
No, I just read kind of the middle part.
All right, and the very last little portion you read was interesting to me because you had described in that psalm. Actually, why don't you just read the whole thing again to us?
Okay.
And the very last part stuck out to me a lot.
Yeah.
So go ahead and read it.
Absolutely. So this Psalm 18, I'm going to start in verse 6. Leading up to this, David was basically talking about how he's oppressed by his enemies. And then in verse 6, he says this, "In my distress, I called to the Lord. I cried to my God for help. From his temple, he heard my voice. My cry came before him into his ears. The earth trembled and quaked, and the foundations of the mountains shook. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils. Consuming fire came from his mouth. Burning coals blazed out of it. He parted the heavens and came down. Dark clouds were under his feet. He mounted the cherub and flew. He soared on the wings of the wind. He made darkness his covering, his canopy around him. The dark rain clouds of the sky. Out of the brightness of his presence, the clouds advanced with hailstones and bolts of lightning. The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded. He shot his arrows and scattered the enemy. With great bolts of lightning, he routed them. The valleys of the sea were exposed, and the foundations of the earth laid bare at your rebuke, Lord, at the blast of the breath of your nostrils. He reached down from on high, and he took hold of me, and he drew me out of deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemies, from foes who were too strong for me."
And there was this part at the end that you read that took me a little bit by surprise. And you said a lot of that says all this was just the breath of your nostrils.
Yeah.
Okay. And I got thinking to myself, like, your nostrils do not produce this like huge rush of air. And I thought about like how hard it is to really get a lot of air out of your nostrils in an aggressive form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And nobody was ever taken aback by nostril breath. Like, oh my gosh, the strength of your nostril breath. Really.
Yeah. Nobody even blows out a candle with their nostril breath.
You know, I would love to maybe even right now do an experiment on this candle.
please.
To see if
Can you?
Really hot.
Is it hot?
Do it fast.
Oh, you got it.
I got it.
Premium content.
That's
right
good
here.
content.
That's good content.
Hold on. Let's relight it, dude.
Let it again.
Don't Preston, are your hands burning right now?
Not sorry about your hands, Preston.
No pain. Where's this go?
Not a single person in the history of mankind has ever been like, ah, man,
Your
let's
nostril
blow
breath.
that out with my nostrils.
Yeah.
because there's no like confidence in that.
No way.
But like you were reading, and that got me thinking about the game with the breath as well.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of why I wanted to play the game. It reminded me of that game. I saw that game on social media, and I was
Okay.
seeing these people playing it. I was laughing because they're really funny. And anyway, just thinking like how important like your air is, like your breath, and not a single person ever has put any kind of confidence in their nostril breath. But like you read all this amazing, powerful, fearful stuff that was the Lord was doing, and then it kind of references, and this was just breath from your nostrils.
Yeah.
Like it seems to me, and it appears to me, just by quickly listening to it, that this was just all this scary stuff came simply from the Lord's nostrils. And so how much more should we fear the Lord if that's just the simple nostril breath?
Yeah.
The power of the nose. I mean, like, seriously, has anybody ever put confidence in the nose of any way, shape, or form? I mean, like, I don't, that speaks, there's something there that I had just noticed.
Yeah. No, nobody ever puts confidence in their nose. You know why I know that? Because we have a phrase we say, oh man, I hope this tastes as good as it smells.
Because the nose can be misleading.
Because the nose can be, something can smell great and then you taste it and you're like, ugh.
I would say the majority of people, the first time they taste coffee, they're probably saying that, oh, that didn't match the smell.
Right.
Because a brewed coffee is one of the best smells in the world.
Right.
But then just
taste it.
straight black coffee is a little bit of like, ugh.
Especially the first time you taste it.
Especially the first time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, and the fear of the Lord is so important. I love what John Bevere says, that the church has done a phenomenal job at teaching us about the love of the Lord,
Yeah.
but probably not a good enough job teaching us how to fear the Lord.
Yeah.
And I would say yes and amen. And I remember when he said that, I personally started a journey just within myself about paying more attention to, do I fear the Lord enough?
Yeah.
You know, in my daily life, do I realize the Lord sees the secrets that I don't want anybody else to see?
Right.
The Lord knows my intentions, even when it appears I have good intentions. Deep down, I don't have good intentions. Here's a question for you guys, and you can answer vulnerably or shallow. Doesn't bother me, whatever you choose to do. But can you think of a time in your life when you did a favor for somebody, but the reason you did it for them was because you hoped that you would get a favor in return?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think the answer is yes. And maybe you could share, a little bit of that, of what happened there,
Yeah. Do you want to go or do you want me to?
Go ahead. I
sure.
definitely have a story, but go ahead.
Yeah, man. This is kind of a dumb example, but I have an elderly neighbor who lives across the street from me, and sometimes I'd help him out with stuff, and he's not really a nice guy. Kind of a weird old guy, Love the guy, but he's an 85-year-old man living alone in his house. Who knows what's going on? But I used to help him out with yard work only, not to be nice, not to out of the goodness of my heart, but so I can get paid.
Yeah.
So I can get that money.
Oh yeah.
And so I would help him out with mowing his lawn or power washing, whatever, and I'd do it willingly so I'd get paid. I remember one time I was power washing for him, took a long time, took a few hours, and then after I got done, I would go up like, all right, John, I'm done. So I could be like, oh yeah, sure, here's the money. Handed me a cucumber lime Gatorade and said thanks. And I was upset about it.
The worst of all the
I know.
Gatorades, too.
I know, but because I was upset about it.
Yeah.
Because I was going about it from the wrong heart, from the wrong mindset, doing it to benefit myself, and not simply showing the love of Jesus to him.
Totally.
Oh yeah, I can think of this is kind of a funny story. I was raising money to go to camp when I was a kid, and my grandparents had me mow their lawn, and they told me they would pay me. And so I mowed their lawn. They paid me $20.
Nice.
And I think I was in like 3rd grade. So like $20. This is awesome.
Yeah. As a 3rd grader, yeah, you've hit the jackpot, my friend.
Buy so many books from the book fair with that.
Pokemon cards.
Yeah. Well, I was going to camp, and I heard they had like a snack shack at camp, and so I was like, dude, I could buy so many bags of M&Ms.
Yeah, and you could you'd become the talk of the town too.
Right.
$20 to the snack shack.
That's what I'm talking about.
You're like a king.
So, so then my other set of grandparents said, "Oh, we could have you come over and do some work." And I remember specifically talking to them and trying to appear as though, wow, can you believe how much money my other grandparents gave me for mowing their lawn? And then being like, but obviously I don't expect you guys to pay me that much money for, I think I was power washing their deck. I was like, I just, whatever you guys want, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll do it because I love you guys. But I was saying that because I wanted them to give me lots of money.
Yeah.
And so I was saying all of the right things for all of the wrong reasons, even as a 3rd grader.
Yeah.
Right? We do that.
Yeah. And I remember at times too. I mean, I've officiated a few weddings.
Yeah.
Where I thought I was going to get paid, and I guess they thought that I was being, doing my job as a pastor.
Oh, okay.
I make my money somewhere else or something. And, I never got paid from individuals. And there's just this like big part of me that was like, I did so much work for you guys, I did all your pre-counseling.
Yeah.
Then I did your rehearsal. I did your wedding. I mean, like, woo, I did a lot of stuff, and I didn't get a single penny from like any of this work. And there's always this part of me that like wants to rise up and like give them a call, maybe once a couple weeks after they got back from the honeymoon, and say, hey, don't know if you know it or not, but I never got paid.
Right.
And then this other part of me with the Lord speaks and says, why don't you just do a favor for them?
Yeah.
And the truth is that Lord, I will do a favor for them, but my heart's not in the right place.
Yeah.
Like that. Sometimes the Bible actually says this, that even our good intentions are like filthy rags.
Yeah.
That because that's the human heart within the decent work, is that we tend to think, I hope I get recognized for this. I hope I get paid because of this. I hope that somebody thanks me at least and notices what I'm doing. And Jesus really shocks the world when he says, don't even let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. Because if you get a reward here on earth, that's your reward. That's the reward. That in heaven, then there's no reward because you got rewarded already. But Jesus says, I would encourage you that heaven's rewards are so much greater. So don't seek earthly rewards.
Yeah.
So delayed gratification for our whole life is what Jesus is wanting us to do.
Yep.
And I would say to you that the best way to get there, having the right heart, is fearing God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I was doing some study on the fear of the Lord recently, and I went to a passage in, I think it's Matthew. So one of the Gospels, and Jesus is talking, and he makes this great statement where he's saying, don't fear the one who can kill the body, but fear the one who can destroy your soul in hell.
Yeah.
And I don't think that a lot of people preach on that passage because it's scary. And it's not a very popular passage to read in church in youth ministry, right? Like nobody's like, hey guys, let me talk to you about not fearing people, but we're going to fear the one who can destroy your soul in hell.
Yeah.
But it's such a foundational belief that I think when we begin to lose that belief, we slip into this, it becomes easy for us to slip into this world of just having love as the main virtue of Christianity. Like love is the main thing. This is it, the number one thing. And I'm not saying that love is not important, but what I'm saying is that love can't be like the thing.
Yeah.
Or else we drift from this.
Can't be the only thing.
Right. It can't be the only thing.
Yeah.
There has to be this fear of the Lord, this idea of holiness, that we're called to be set apart. Like our life is not supposed to be, let me just blend into the world and love everybody or affirm everybody. But I'm going to stick to what the God of the Bible says. I'm going to stand up for it, like Paul told Timothy. And when you've done all that you know how to do, stand. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what he told him to do. And I think that we've lost a little bit of that in our culture.
Yeah. We've lost. It's difficult, I think, as a leader and a pastor to be balanced. I think it's difficult to like disciple people into an extremely super well balanced diet, so to speak.
Oh yeah,
like it is difficult. I don't know why. Maybe we should like focus a little bit more on like making sure like, okay, this percentage of our messages is focusing on this attribute of God this year. And then a nice percentage of love, then a nice percentage of God is just, and then a nice percentage of God is merciful, and then a nice percentage of God's grace. So like so that there's this like nice, well balanced diet.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to do, and maybe because we don't think that way, or like when you're working week to week, you're not entirely thinking like that. So I think we tend to get off, and how we explain God and show God and talk about God. Mm-hmm. We tend to get a little unbalanced in our diet, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And unknowingly too sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, maybe I have been focusing a little bit too much over here. I needed to talk a little bit over here too.
Yeah. I think it's so easy to kind of get unbalanced because it's really easy to hear Jesus loves you and, love is the main thing, which, praise the Lord for that.
Yeah.
But all of us, we have those little sins that we deal with, or there's some kind of a bad way to explain it, but the sins that are kind of fun.
Well, yeah.
And so we kind of give into those a little bit, do whatever it is. Everyone's guilty of it. But then we don't want to hear about, I don't know where I'm going with this. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I feel like we don't want to hear the just side of God.
Yes, yeah.
I even heard, was talking with somebody, and they read that passage in Romans 6 or 7, I can't remember which one it is, where Paul is talking about grace, and then I think it's the transition between maybe 6 and 7, and he says, well then, what should we conclude? Shall we go on sinning so that grace can abound all the more? By no means.
Yeah.
But they would stop at that, right before that verse, they would say, well, when sin abounds, grace abounds so much more. Mm-hmm. And they would not finish, or they would not go into the next chapter. It's like, well, see, so I know that I've sinned, but it's okay because God's grace covers it. And they were just so focusing so much on that grace, but missing the next line. It's the next chapter, but it's the next line where Paul's literally like, so what should we conclude? Mm-hmm. Shall we go on sinning so that grace can abound all the more? Yeah. By no means.
Yeah, and let's finish with this thought that I have, because I think it's a big enough thought that it can carry us to the end here. Is people struggle with the idea of hell, some sort of judgment.
Yeah.
They struggle with that, but they really like the idea of no hell,
Yeah.
no judgment, that everybody goes to heaven. But there is major flaws in the theological soup that there is no hell. I'll never forget watching this TV show. I don't really recommend it, but it's absolutely hilarious. Modern Family. It's not a Christian show, but there is this really funny scene where it's Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. And have you guys ever seen this show?
Nope.
I've seen this show. I actually haven't seen this episode, but like, you showed me this clip of the episode and we laughed about it.
Because it sums up a little bit of the dilemma that people have with heaven and hell.
Yeah.
And people love to debate about heaven and hell and why would a God of love send people to hell? All this stuff, right? So there's this Sunday morning in the show. The wife wants to go to church and the husband wants to play golf. And there's the son who is torn.
Yeah.
Deciding he doesn't know which parent to go with. And the father says, there's no hell. And the kid's like, really?
Yeah.
This is the greatest news ever. I'm going to go golfing with you. There's no hell.
Yeah.
And then they're on the golf course, and you could tell the kid's thinking, and so he starts asking his dad, like, how do you know there's no hell? He goes, because there just isn't. And he goes, well, where do all the bad people go? And he goes, they're in heaven. Bad people are in heaven? What if they're, doing bad things there? He goes, no, they're behind a big wall. So they're in a prison in heaven. And,
Yeah.
and so essentially the guy who says there's no hell creates a prison for bad people in heaven.
Right.
And guess what? That's just hell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So even the show reveals that the human heart is trying to figure out a way, where do bad people go then?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Where do evil people go? Mm-hmm. And the answer is that a person who dies in their sins, and the Lord knows their heart, Lord sees their heart, and knows the wickedness, that he rightfully divides those to heaven and those to hell.
Yeah.
And that's the God we serve.
Yep.
That brings me a lot of fear. That puts some fear in my heart. Mm-hmm. But a little fear is very good. It keeps you on the straight and narrow path.
Yeah.
And I love there's so many great YouTube channels where some of these awesome Christians are going to these college campuses and they just do wonderful debates about eternity and Jesus and all these things. And there's always the great debate about the guy who says, or the girl who says, I just can't stand the idea of a God sending people to hell. And that is true, that there is the struggle within us to believe that a loving God can send people to hell. And some people even say, well, maybe they're only in hell for a little bit of time, and then they kind of work off their mistakes and get into heaven.
Right.
And I would say that sounds pretty pleasant until you think that through a little bit further. Because if that's the case, then people would live an evil life for 70 years knowing, sure, I could take some torture for a few hundred years, but I'm going to make it to heaven one day.
Right.
So evil would abound more. But the idea of eternity in hell sets the heart into a thought process of, I think I need to get my life right. Because eternity is scary.
Yeah.
Fearful.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But the Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yep. I was going to bring in two things that concluding statement you just kind of made me think about. One was there's a guy that I follow on Instagram. He's a theologian. He actually runs a theology school, and he'll do like Q&As where people can ask him stuff. And someone asked him this great question. They said, "Hey, is hell eternal?" I said, because the word that Jesus used, obviously it wasn't English, it was Greek or Aramaic.
Yeah.
they said doesn't always mean eternal. And he was like, well, did it mean eternal when he used it for heaven? Because it was the same word he used for heaven.
Yeah. See, that's the human heart trying to justify.
They're trying to justify this. They're trying to say, well, but maybe hell isn't forever. But justice wouldn't work that way.
Yes.
A just God wouldn't work that way. And then recently we took a handful of Ignited students to Lost Valley Bible Camp. And there was a preacher there. He was incredibly smart. He's actually a history professor at University of Michigan and a youth pastor. And his opening message of the camp, he wrestled with this question of how could a loving God send people to hell?
Wow, that was his first message.
That was his first message.
Wow, that's awesome.
Super, super good. And he had this great quote that I thought was really, really good. He said, heaven is not for God's favorites. It is for God's followers. That it's not this like, hey, like if you're my friend, like, you know, if you're my best friend, you can make it in.
It's more of a sonship.
Yes.
Like you're my son no matter what.
No matter what. If you're a follower of Jesus, you're in. And he used the story of Noah and the ark and that whole story to illustrate this idea that, yes, God is full of love. I mean, 1 John tells us that God is love. But God is also so just, and he gives us the option because he's a loving God. He gives us an invitation to come and to follow him. And then he said this too. I love this quote he was talking about, you know, that time of Noah. He said this: Noah was honoring God and the rest of the world was playing God. Because they wanted to be the final say. They wanted to make all of their decisions. They wanted to be their own God.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And
that's because of that part of not fearing the Lord.
Right. And Noah was honoring God because he feared the Lord.
Wow.
And I have a bunch of notes. I'm gonna go through all that stuff, but just that little last point that you made, I was like, man, that was so good, and I thought it applied to this conversation.
It does. Do you have any final thoughts, Preston?
Sorry, I'm holding the cough.
That's okay. You can cough and just apologize just like that.
It's just so much of a reminder that...
Forgiven.
Oh, thank you.
I plead the blood.
Oh, gosh. Oh, boy.
Sorry.
Sweet. No, it's just a reminder that, you know, you tell people about the love of Jesus so much, but we also have to remind them that there's a justness to God, and there's also accountability for what we do. And, you know, if the Lord is so powerful, and there's just a little nostril can do all that, you know, that's not something I want to come against. Yeah. It's not someone I want to come against. I want to live my life in a way that honors God, that glorifies God, and doesn't give in when the temptation comes in, doesn't sin just to sin and say, oh, well, the Lord will forgive me. You know, I don't want to live a life that takes advantage of God's grace.
Man.
You know, I want to live a life that's God-honoring and showing people the love of Jesus, but also having that fear of the Lord and the fear of what could happen if I do decide to go against him. And with Lord's help, hopefully, doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's been a great podcast today.
Yeah, it's been great to be back.
You've been a great audience today too.
Absolutely. If you stuck around till the very end, till right now, we applaud you.
That's for you.
You clapped 5 times.
Oh. Bye.
Youth and Young Adult Podcast. Youth and Young Adult Podcast. Youth and Young Adult Podcast.